You're with Dion at HDpiano, and this is Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so that covers us through from the intro all the way through the first verse, and that's where we're going to stop in this video for the time being. And this is a really fun song to play. It's a song played on guitars and trumpets and bass and lots of nice country elements, country and western elements in there as well. So we are looking at various parts of this song on the piano, including the vocal lines. So this is designed if you're going to play the melody on the piano. The left hand is where all of the groove is coming from, if we can call it that with country music. And we're doing this pattern that's based around 3 notes only. And those 3 notes are G and D and C. That's all we're going to be really doing in the left hand for kind of 90% of the time here. And in this country music style, we have this back and forth bass line where we have lots of G, D, G, D. We're going back and forth between a G and a D, bouncing back and forth. Occasionally, we'll head down to a C, and sometimes we'll also do a little run up from D, E, F sharp, G. But for the most part, we're playing on every beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, either playing Gs and Ds or the occasional C at the end of the bar as well. And this kind of plodding bass is kind of very, very country. That's what's kind of underpinning this whole thing. Now, this song is also quite interesting in that it has some bars where there is only 3 beats inside each bar. On those bars, instead of going back and forth, we skip the first D. So if we're going to go G, D, G, D, we would instead just go G, G, D, and then we're back to normal transmission. So that's the idea with the left hand in this song. It's kind of underpinning, giving us a nice country groove with this nice every note on every beat bounce back and forth. We're going to have a look at the trumpet part now. Now we are on piano, but we can play the parts that other instruments would play. And so the iconic opening to this song is this trumpet riff where we have so this riff is played starting with your right hand on G and B. I'm using my thumb and my second finger here. Then we're going to shift up to A and C using my thumb and third finger. A sharp and C sharp with my fourth and second fingers. And then sliding those 2 fingers up to land on B and D. And that B and D is where most of the rhythm is coming from. That kind of fast, jumpy rhythm. So walking our way up. And we're coming in at the start of the song on a nice anticipated lead in on beat 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're going to top this off by heading up to C and E with your third and fifth fingers, down to A and C, and then coming back to B and D. And that gives us our first phrase. One more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now the second trumpet phrase is very similar. We don't climb up to it though, we just start on G and B. And we do a similar pattern as before. We're going up to A and C, down to F sharp and A, and back to G and B. That's the second half of the trumpet line. 3 and 4 and. Now I would like you to experiment here with which fingers you use. I like to use 2nd and 4th, 3rd and 5th, 2nd and 3rd, before coming back to 2nd and 4th. You might like to use your 1st and 3rd on the F sharp and A, or something totally different. And that's up to you. Have an experiment, see what works for you. Just because it works for me isn't necessarily the right way to do it. So please experiment with anything that I'm playing. Try it to see if it works for you in a different way. So that is our trumpet part. Now, underneath each of these phrases, these are part of our bars that only have 3 beats. So underneath the first one, we'll be going G, G, C, then coming back to G and D. Underneath the second one, we've got G, G, D, then coming back to G and D. Let's go through that nice and slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 2, 3, 4. So that is the intro to this song. Now, those trumpet parts will also appear throughout the verse, and they also appear later on in the song. So for all those other parts of the choruses, the interludes, they'll be at HDpiano.com for you to sort of learn the rest of the song, I suppose. But we're going to continue on with this first verse. Now, we are playing a melody version, which means we're playing the part which basically imitates the vocal line of Johnny Cash. So we're playing the lyrics. Love is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. We're really just playing what would be sung. If you're a singer and you don't want to play the melody, well, that'll be a video on HDpiano.com as well. We'll talk you through some accompaniment options instead of playing the melody. This melody is based around the notes of the G major scale. So we're only on the lookout for one black note in here, which is the F sharp. So keep an eye out for that one. Everything else is on white keys. And the melody starts on D. That first little phrase is all around D, E, and C before coming back to D. And that's 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3. The next little phrase, which is and it makes a fiery ring, starts on A. So we're heading down a little bit. We're on A, up to B, and then we're going to head up to C. And we're kind of going in and around the A, B, and C notes for the second one. So we're kind of dealing in groups of 3s here. C, D, and E for the first one, and A, B, and C for the second one. This third part of the melody, which is Bound by Wild Desire, again, is those C, D, and E notes. And then the last phrase, I fell into a ring of fire. We're starting on the B, the A, but we're now going down to our F sharp and then resolving that to G. So one little change there at the end. Otherwise, we're in little groups of 3s. So that's the idea of the melody. Now I'm going to put that melody on top of our bass line so you get an idea of how that sounds. I'm also going to input the trumpet parts that you hear in between the vocals, so you get an idea of where they sit in the song as well. Bearing in mind that these bars that have the trumpet are bars that only have 3 beats, so they're going to have the altered bass line where we have 2 on G and then 1 on C, or 2 on G and then 1 on D. So let's take it from the start of the melody. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is the melody. At the moment, it's pretty bare bones. So what we're going to do now is to ramp that up by adding some additional harmony notes underneath the melody. So if we're playing on top of a G bass note, we'll probably be harmonizing with notes from a G major chord, which would include G, B, or D. If our left hand is playing a C, we'll likely be using notes from the C major chord. So that might be a C, or a G, or an E. If we're playing a D in the bass, we might be using notes from a D major chord, and that includes D and F sharp and A. And these notes are going to sit underneath the melody so that the melody stays on top as the highest thing we hear the whole way through. All right, so to start off the melody, we're going to play a full G major chord. That's where our melody sits there, and we're harmonizing under that with G and B. When we get to Burning, we're now left hand on C, so we're going to harmonize that with a G. That's part of the C chord. And then using a B underneath our D melody. Let's go through those first couple of bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Pause there, you can see now our melody dropped, so the notes we used to harmonize also dropped down to a G and now a D. We're moving through different chord inversions in this way. Inversions are where you rearrange the notes of the chord into a different order. So we're now down lower here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and a 1. My bad. 3 and 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3. There we had D in the left hand, so we're using notes from our D major chord, D and F sharp, before we come back to our G major chord. Our walk up in the bass, same harmonies. That last one there is actually a bar of 3, and we're playing our G major chord again, harmonizing underneath our melody here. Now we've got notes from our D major chord, and then finishing off. Now I'm playing this melody, by the way, in the same register that Johnny Cash is singing. You might want to experiment with playing it higher. That is also fine. If you play it higher, that's going to mean you don't have to switch so much between the melody and then the trumpet parts. They can all stay in the same register of the piano, like this. 3 and 4 and 1. So it's really up to you where you want to play the melody and where you want to play the trumpets. I've chosen to separate them out so it sounds nice and low like Johnny Cash sings, but please feel free to do what sounds good to you. So we've gone through the trumpets, we've gone through the melody, we've added some harmony. I'm going to go through the whole thing a little slower than full speed, and then one more time at full speed. So here we go. 1 and 2 and 3. 2, 3, and 4, and into the melody. That would then lead into our chorus. That's going to be in the next video. So before we get there, we've got to do it one more time, this time at full speed. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So that's it for now. Great job so far on learning through part 1. If you're on HDpiano, just click on the next lesson to continue. And if you're on YouTube, head over to HDpiano.com for the rest of the song. Do you have a request? Well, visit requests.hdpiano.com and follow us on your favorite socials at HDpiano. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and give us feedback in the comments. My name is Dion, and you're at HDpiano, the home of the hybrid piano lesson.